Sound check, mic on, sound check.
That side here.
Sound check, mic on, sound check.
We light this candle for our grief. The pain of losing you is real. It reminds us of the depth of our love for you. It reminds us that our lives are now changed forever. And we light it for our love. A special place in our hearts that will always be reserved just for you. We thank you for this gift that your living has brought to each of us. You are loved. You will long be remembered. Would you come? Thank you. Well, I welcome you each today. My name is Philip Smith. I'm honored to be the celebrant today as we gather to remember Jane Wiley Strother. But for most in this space, she'll always be your mom, or your grand or your great-grandmother, your mother-in-law or your sister, your friend or your neighbor. Yet no matter what you have called her in your lifetime, as we gather here today in this space designed for remembrance, we hold space for her time with us, as we share in the memories of this vibrant life that she has lived. And as we join our hearts and lives together, we do so not simply to remember Jane, but to bring strength to her family today as well. Her loving children, her daughter Linda, her daughter Carol and her husband Michael, her son Glenn, as well as some of Grandma's favorite people, Renee, Sean, Ryan, Nicholas, and Madison, as well as those you love. And then there's the great-grands, Riley and McKenna and Maeve, along with her loving sister Anne. Today we also pause to reflect on those lives who have shared this journey with her but have also journeyed on. Her beloved partner in this life, her Gordon, her loving parents and her siblings, Chris and Isabel. Each life now reunited with Jane beyond our sight and for eternity yet to come. And on behalf of the family, allow me to thank you for being here today. This is our moment to stop and honor her life and the meaning that she's brought to each one of us through her being a part of our journeys as well. And we're here today to hear the thoughts, to better understand the values that allowed her to love, care for, and support this family for some 88 very well-lived years. And as we come together, we stand unified and demonstrate our care and support of them today. And not simply for today, but my hope is that that care and support will follow this family beyond today as well. Today we focus on those things that made her so very special in our lives as we take this time to embrace the memories with joy and peace, as we remember this loving, caring, energetic, and talented woman. The author Shannon L. Adler penned these words. She said, "Carve your name on hearts, not tombstones. A legacy is etched into the minds of others in the stories that they will share about you." And as we move forward in this time shared, I'm honored to offer my voice to those voices who have definitely felt the etchings of Jane on their hearts and lives over their journey beside her today. We're going to hear the thoughts from her children, Carol, Linda, and Glenn. These thoughts from Carol. Thank you all for coming today. I'm Carol, Jane's second child, and I'm honored to speak about my mother, a devoted mother, a hard worker, and a dedicated community volunteer. When I think back to my childhood, I remember summers at the cottage, a tradition my parents introduced us to that became such a cherished part of our lives. Because of those summers when I had my own family, I made sure that my kids had their own version of that experience in our trailer. I was always proud to invite my parents up and give them a piece of what they had given me. Jane was a no-nonsense kind of woman, practical, strong-willed, and always looking out for her family. She was a wonderful mother and an even better partner to my dad. None of us kids ever went without, though I will say my parents were very Scottish and that would make them stingy. That being said, we were all well-fed, well-dressed, and well taken care of. Above all, my mother was loving, caring, and kind. She raised me to be the same. She was never afraid to show her love to those around her. In fact, she loved to love. One of her greatest joys in this life was being a grandmother and a great-grandmother. She cherished every moment with her grandchildren, whether she was spoiling them or just spending time with them. They were her pride and her joy. And if you ever spent more than 5 minutes with her, well, you'd hear all about them. My mother was a born leader and a tireless worker, something she proved through her years of dedication to the Institute of Chartered Accountants. But no matter how busy she was, she always made time for her family. When I was young on the diving team, she never missed a swim meet. I could always count on seeing her in the crowd and cheering me on. Some of my fondest memories are the simple ones, sitting in front of a fireplace as a child while she brushed my hair. Those quiet moments of love and care meant everything. Now, my mother had a few quirks, too. Growing up, we had a cleaning lady because both my parents worked very demanding jobs. But for some reason, Mom insisted that she would clean the entire house the night before she arrived. I've never understood that logic. Later in life, when we lived in Vaughan with my dad, I would make the hour-long drive at least once a week to help with groceries, appointments, and of course, cell phone dilemmas. Because technology and Jane were not always the best of friends. In her more recent years, she moved closer to Oshawa to be closer to me. It was during that time that I had the privilege of caring for her, just as she has always cared for me. It was bittersweet, heartbreaking to see her unwell, but also a chance to give back even a fraction of the love that she had given me throughout my lifetime. I will always be grateful for those moments, for the days spent together, the lunches, the chats about my dad, and even just napping on the couch beside each other. Jane gave me the tools to become the woman and the mother that I am today. She taught me not just through words, but by the way she lived, with strength, grace, and love. Mom, I will miss you always, but I will carry you with me in everything I do. Thank you for everything. Love, Carol. Thank you, Carol. And these thoughts from Linda. My mom was the matriarch of the family. Everything was cleared through her. She was a hard-working, determined, ambitious woman. She loved her family dearly, especially my dad. They were a special couple with a wonderful, loving bond. We grew up in a strict environment which we all disliked all the time. Me being the oldest had it the worst, but I'm now grateful for this. She taught us respect for all, inclusivity, a better-than-good work ethic, and how a family comes first. She was an amazing cook. Holidays were always so special. We grew up with no other family, so it was always just the five of us on holidays. And we never felt alone. We sat down at the dinner table together 7 nights a week. Friday was takeout night. She always loved the Steer Inn, or the Allen Court fish and chips, or even some Harveys. And both Mom and Dad loved to entertain with neighbors and friends, and we did this often. Every summer we would rent a cottage in or near Wasaga Beach and created so many wonderful family memories there. When I was about 12, they put a pool in the backyard. They then started traveling in the winter to different spots, mostly in the Caribbean, and then spending time by the pool in the summers. All our friends were always welcome. I think the pool was a ploy to keep us all under their watchful eyes. I would agree with that, Linda. After Dad retired and Mom was working from home, they sold our pool and the house. I was devastated. Mom, how could you sell my room? They wanted a quieter life than the fast-growing town that Richmond Hill could provide. Once I visited them a few times and saw how happy they were, I was very happy for them as well. As much as Mom missed seeing us on the regular basis, she was thriving in Uxbridge. Eventually, she fully retired, which made my dad so happy. But it wasn't enough. Too much time on her hands. She joined community service and helped older seniors with their shopping errands and appointments, or just to keep them company. She joined a fitness class called Boomer Boosters. It was for the 50-plus age group. The family defined it for me as, CrossFit light. She talked about it all the time. She also did pole walking around the neighborhood. I don't have a lot of specific memories with Mom and I other than sitting and chatting about all kinds of topics. I used to go and spend weekends with them in Uxbridge about once a month. Mom always let me decide what would be for dinner on the Friday night. We would sit on the front porch and chat before dinner, and after dinner, our glass of wine. Then came the cards. We all loved to play cards. Poor Mom didn't often win, but she always had fun. That last 4.5 years since your move to Oshawa were really tough on you. Losing the great love of your life left a hole that nobody could fill. I wish I'd visited you more often. I wish you didn't get the horrible disease that took you from us long before your body had given out. Thank you for being such a wonderful mom, for supporting me every single time I needed it. Thank you for being such a wonderful grandma to my children and great-grandma to Renee's children. Thank you for all you have taught me. I will miss you forever. Love you, Mom. Linda. Thank you, Linda. And these thoughts from Glenn. You want to read them yourself?
Part of it I probably won't get through, so I think I'll let you carry on.
Okay. You sure? Okay. Am I doing a bad job? Is that what?
Well, probably better than me.
Thank you, everyone, for coming today. I'm not going to tell you all too many stories. I'd be here all day, and my sisters, Carol and Linda, have told you enough that you will have a sense of who she was. My mom was a great lady, a great mom, a great wife, sister, daughter, aunt, and grandmother. She was always there. If I was sick, she was there to make me feel better, stirring the carbonation from the ginger ale so it was easier on my stomach. Always there to feed me. Always there to wash my stinky hockey equipment and whatever else. Always there if I left things lying around and to put them all away always. She was always there to give me shit when I needed it, and I needed it a lot. Now, he had heck in brackets there. I'm not sure whether I was supposed to read either word, but she was always there to teach me about people, how to treat others. Always there if I needed a few dollars, even as an adult, and the answer was always yes. And she was such a smart woman, too. Always doing crosswords, and she didn't miss many. All kinds of brain puzzles, she was always great at all of them. And the last 5 years was tough, watching her decline so fast, especially in the last year. I went to go see my mom for her 88th birthday on February 14th. She had to go to the hospital, and I went there, and I found her room, and all she wanted to do was leave. Mom asked how Dad was getting along with the floors, how my bedroom was coming along. She asked me when my father was picking her up. I said he was having a nap, and she asked where, and I said at his place. Then Mom asked me to call him. I said, I don't remember the number. Mom said it was easy, just dial 884-7575. Our old number from Elwood, so many years ago. So I called her and told her it was busy, and then she wanted to leave again. Well, she's gone now, so I won't remember my mom that way. Nor should anyone else, because that wasn't her. I'm just going to remember my mom and dad who shaped me into who I am today, because I am pretty awesome. I would agree with that, Glenn. Thanks, Mom. You really are the best mom a son could ever ask for. Always there, and now you're always here in my thoughts and memories and in my heart. Forever love you, Mums. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you all for sharing these thoughts of her life and love with us today. Thank you for allowing me to be your voice in that equation. You know, my friends, if you look really closely at the photo the family has chosen today, it's not in this room, it's out in the lobby. I'm pretty sure that you can still see that little glint in her eye. It would come to being on the 14th day of February in 1937. And she would be blessed by St. Valentine himself, it would appear. Across the pond in Galashiels, Scotland. As she would be welcomed to the love and care of her parents and to the welcome of the edges of that family table where she would share those early years of the journey alongside her siblings, Chris and Isabel and Anne. And that gleam in her eye would no doubt continue to make her stand out in the eyes of her parents in those early years. Perhaps her father's eye more than most, as it would come to his attention at some point that as she was into her teen years, she'd been sneaking out of the house to go to the local dances. He would find out when she was just about 16 years of age that this was the case. Perhaps she'd been doing it longer and he had just not been any the wiser. And what would really push the issue was that it would be at one of those very same dances that the lovely young Jane would meet the much older Gordon. The 7-year age gap would be a true concern for her father. Yet in time, those concerns would be abated as the years would pass. Jane and Gordon wouldn't do anything rash. Just build on the love that they had found in the dance hall on a Saturday night in 1952. They would wed just before her 20th birthday and after 4 years of falling deeper in love with each other. And they would commit themselves to becoming husband and wife and promise to share the rest of their lives together, a commitment that they both held firmly to. And as you already know, they would set up home here in Toronto and build onto those years spent dreaming of tomorrow. They would make a new life for themselves with us in the beauty of Canada. And apparently we were one of 3 choices that they had to make. There was Australia, but the spiders are huge, so nobody really wants to live there. And then Canada, well, I mean, come on, just look at our hockey team. And Florida, yeah, we'll just say no thanks right now. Those years that were once dreams for far-off notions would see them build a life together, find success in their business and personal dealings, from the jobs they would work that would make their lives work, to the foundation that they would set for their children and their children's children as well. And when I asked them to tell me what she was like as a mom, they told me that she was strict, but in all the best ways. Now remember that glint in her eye, if you will. I'm sure she was strict because she already knew. And if she was strict, it was simply because she wanted the best for them and wanted them to feel safe and secure. And that came with its realities for them as well. The one that stands out from all of them was simply that if you called before you were going to be late for curfew, that was all right. But don't be late for curfew without calling. And if you called, well, that would buy you some time. And over the years, pros like Linda would develop a system. She would call just before curfew and announce that they had just ordered a pizza, so she'd be later than they expected. Or she would simply blame her friends for her lateness, knowing that she might still get disciplined, but not nearly as long as it would have been the other way around. And for Carol, well, apparently for Carol, fear would just take hold in those moments. And if she wasn't going to make curfew, she would literally just stay away from home for a day or two. Before cell phones, that might just have been the most genius of the ideas. Because by the time you got back, that sense of relief would usually outweigh the anger, and the outcome would probably be more loving than it would have been otherwise. And Glenn? Well, Glenn could do no wrong, apparently. Then again, according to him, he should have been the firstborn, but Dad missed. Then Carol, well, she was already named Glenn before he arrived, so she had to give that up. But when the timing was right and Dad had perfect rhythm, and all the stars aligned to make all things right in the world for the Strother clan and bless them with Glenn. So yeah, Glenn could do no wrong. You can give me my $5 later, buddy. And while Dad would make sure that they made it to all their activities, Jane would make sure that that home that they shared was her castle. Clean enough to take your sock feet out from under you on a late Saturday morning, no doubt. And it would smell like she had made all the meals they loved in one setting, as they would come home to find that that's exactly what she had done as she prepared for the week ahead. Oh, sure, Grandma lived with them and was happy to cook. But let's put it this way. Grandma's cooking methods were still tethered to times when you really had to make sure that your meat was cooked well in order for it to be safe to eat. So Jane would show her love through those casseroles and meals that simply needed some heat, and the kitchen would be filled with her joy once more, and the family's tummies too. Those years would be filled with the day trips that visitors from across the pond felt obligatory when they were here. Taking the aunts and the uncles and the grands to the majesty of Niagara Falls was almost like a pilgrimage from those folks from the UK. But the kids wouldn't mind. I have no doubt that those far-flung family would make sure that there was a treat for each of them on those outings. And I asked them to tell me what she was like as a grand and a great-grandmother. And while some grandmas are the ones that spoil you to show you how cool they are compared to the children that they've raised, not Jane. No, she was mother number 2. And yet, with that strict mothering instinct came an abundance of love for each of them, no doubt. It would show in simple moments like sitting and brushing their hair the perfect amount of times for sleeping perfection, or ensuring that each holiday brought them an amazing example of how much her heart held them within it, and those gifts that would show them that they were amazing and she loved them immensely. And another view of how much she loved and held love for them. And if you ever needed her help along the way or to share a roof for a time, Well, there would be no hesitation, just an open door and her love waiting there within. And when Jane would have those moments when it was just her time to use as she pleased, well, she would love to put on a CD for she and Gordon to dance the night away to. The likes of the Eagles and the Neils, Diamond and Young. And the night Glenn was conceived, well, apparently Stevie Wonder was on the CD for that night. And while she may not have been the one to spend hours in front of the TV, she and Gord would always spend that time watching the nightly lose with a drink in hand to wash away the day's efforts before he would go and find the Leafs in a cold one, and she was free to enjoy the Good Doctor or Little House on the Prairie or the Waltons, alongside the little lives that would have watched anything that was by her side. Are you okay, little piggy? She's snoring. Oh, I see. And for a laugh and a little taste of home, she would like the comedy routines of Hector McNichol and Billy Connolly. And she would love to knit and crochet, her fingers moving rhythmically like some well-oiled machine, creating the warmth and beauty of those sweaters, those Afghans, and those hats that she would pump out time and time again, making sure that each one carried within it one of her hugs and as much love as that yarn was rated for. And she would love the time that she spent in her gardens. Gordon would tend to the vegetable patch, and Jane, she would continually create a love letter to the neighbors and anyone who would pass by, as she would make the abundance of those garden beds come to life and surround the house with beauty. Linda can attest to how many garden beds there are, actually. Apparently, when Gordon and Jane would take a trip to PEI for about 4 weeks in a row, they would ask Linda to care for those gardens, a task that she would gladly take on and managed to do quite well, I'm told. But as soon as she parked her car at home, she proceeded to tear out all her garden beds, because it was just a lot of work, my friends. Jane would love the time that she shared with Gordon, whether it was the evening news or a dance across the floor or anything that was on for a Saturday night movie, Sunday night movie. And it's that love and dedication that would see her commit to his care when he would need dialysis. And rather than the continued trips outside the house, she would monitor things at home for as long as she was able to manage, acting as his personal support worker. But when the realities of his care grew outside her abilities on her own, they would journey together to Chartwell and Vaughan. They would have the support there that was needed. Now, Jane would never let that support do anything to help her, but they were there if they needed them. And she would be right, too. She would be there with him right by his side at Hill House, as together the family would let him know that he was loved and would certainly be missed. She would live the vows that they had shared until the August of 2020 that would see them separated for the first time in their 63 years of marriage. For Jane, she would feel that loss in the years that would follow. And yet she would also feel the love and care of these lives that she and Gordon had brought to life together, their children, their grand and great-grands. There to support her and to welcome her, to encourage her and to hug her close, and to share in the journey of those remaining years together. And while the years that were filled with the warmth of Cuba and Jamaica, Mexico, Barbados, and Trinidad, the joy of great friends and cheap drinks, while they would be past. The ones that would make up these last for Jane, well, they would see her find it more difficult to hold on to the moments that were once so familiar, as she would deal with her own health concerns with each passing day. But along each one of those days would be the love and the care of this family that called her their own, cherished her place in each of their own journeys. A love that would remain a constant right up to this last visit to the hospital that would seemingly be a pretty routine event. The family would come and go, bringing cheer and well wishes, along with those moments of love and care. Potential discharge would even be spoken of. Yet here we find ourselves today, my friends, in this space designed for remembrance, just days after Jane would take that final step in this life. A life that gave her some 88 beautiful trips around the sun and one more Valentine's Day shared. As on the 20th day of February in 2025, Jane Wiley Strother would journey on to be with those who had gone on before, and she would know peace. My friends, there's a quote by Thomas Campbell, and he says, "To live in the hearts of those we leave behind is not to die." For each of us here who have shared a part of your journey with Jane, continue to remember the moments that you have shared, to see her beauty in the tapestry of your own lives. And as we remember her, or we walk in those places that we have shared together, we allow her to remain in our hearts and minds evermore. A vibrant part of our journey and a welcomed part of our days to come as well. For those present who were witness to this bright and shining life, those of you who make up the friends and the colleagues, the neighbors, the companions, my encouragement for you today is that you will continue to be present for this family in their days shared as well. When your thoughts drift to her, perhaps you'll find time to reach out once again, to let them know that your thoughts remain with them in this loss, to be a comfort and a care alongside them in those times when they may simply need the warmth of your smile or your embrace, and to know that Jane's life is valued and remembered still. As we prepare to close our formal time of remembrance for Jane in this chapel shortly, we will welcome back our piper, and the directors here at Barnes will join us to lead the family and those of you who have joined us today to a time of reception just through these back doors and out to our right. But in the few moments that remain, I'd like to share with you a final piece of poetry, if I may. The poet David Harkin writes these words. He said, "You can shed tears that she is gone, or you can smile because she has lived. You can close your eyes and pray that she will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that she has left. Your heart can be empty because you can no longer see her, or you can be full of this love that you have shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and simply live for yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember her and only that she is gone, or you can cherish her memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what Jane would want. Smile, open your eyes, love, and go on."